The truth is out there.
It is one of the world's greatest mysteries, Scotland's legendary Loch Ness Monster. So does the lake creature actually exist? Well, if you ask one man, he'll tell you it is in fact no myth.
Every day it's flaunted in front of your face.
Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads.
You just choose to ignore it.
Belief can be a powerful force. No one knows that better than the people who are sure they've seen Bigfoot.
Real accounts.
He says he knows who's playing mind games.
Rogue government officials that are sponsoring this, also corrupt business officials, and private citizens.
From real people.
Hundreds of people turned out tonight for the unveiling of a very controversial statue.
Yeah, it really is. The Satanic Temple of Detroit revealed the one-ton bronze statue.
It's time for you to take a swim.
I'm just excited to see my Lord and Savior Baphomet represented in such glorious Italian stone. I do hope his eyes gaze upon me and that my allegiance is recognized.
In the dark waters.
The Dark Waters channel is for entertainment purposes only. Although information in these stories can be traced back to relevant and true sources, Dark Waters strongly discourages its viewers, listeners, and subscribers from visiting the site of incidents and encounters discussed or revealed on the show. In other words, we will not be held responsible if you are attacked by a Dogman, molested by a Bigfoot, bitten by vampires, chased by chupacabras, abducted by aliens, accosted by the Men in Black, investigated or arrested by the local law enforcement, CIA, FBI, NSA, EPA, BLM, or another alphabet group, whether on U.S. soil or abroad. Thank you for tuning in, and enjoy the show.
I'm not sure if there's something that you'd be interested in or not. And the only other person there, my former college roommate, is now dead. You see, he knew this dealer who could get me a good deal on a cheap motorbike. So we went to a small town in Nebraska and purchased this little 360 Honda. I was excited. And to make a long story short, I bought it and we headed back to Kansas. It had to be about 9 to 9:30 p.m. when we left the dealership. And on the way back, we come to a crossroads in the highways. Going forward, it's a dirt road. Going left and right, it's a normal highway. My roommate explained to me that if we went straight, we would get to his parents' house way sooner and be able to spend the night there. It was cold that night, and I had very little experience in riding this bike. I didn't want to wreck, so I figured, let's take the shortcut. Well, we drive on for a few miles, up and down this hilly dirt highway. We pop up over one of the hills, and several miles in front of us is this burning ring of fire. Now, I'm assuming it's a ring, and it was going slowly down over the horizon. It looked larger than the sunrise in the morning, with these obvious bright flames around the outside of it, but it was completely black in the middle. And just like in one of those D-horror movies, without even looking at each other, we eventually slowed down and stopped at the exact same time after a couple of more hills, and said nothing. Finally, I asked him, "Did you see that?" His reply was funny, and still to this day I think it was unusual. He said, "See what? We're going the other way." And that we did. I don't know if he was checking his rearview mirror, but I didn't. I was too worried about wrecking. Now I assumed due to the magnitude and sheer size of this thing, there would be all kind of news stories about it. When we got to his parents' house, nothing. Not even a whisper about anything bizarre. I wish I hadn't listened to Mark. And we kept going further so we could see what it was. I even tried to contact several sites to see if anyone else saw something. But nothing. I tell you what, I'll never forget what I saw. Last week, my son and I visited an amusement park in Missouri. We were having a great time, despite the fact that I had occasional pain in my upper arm. You see, 2 days ago, I fell at work, cutting my arm, and sustained a deep 5-inch laceration, which required 24 stitches. But we had already planned this trip to the amusement park, so I decided to keep my promise. While there, my son was excited about this ride called the Wildfire, which was a roller coaster type contraption, where they strap you in and you flip around and travel upside down. I I wasn't too thrilled about this at all, but I had to go on a ride with him because he was too young to go without me. So we get to the front of the line and we get strapped into the seats. And man, I'm telling you, my arm was killing me. I had the shoulder harness that was just pressing right down on my wound. As the ride starts, I'm enduring the pain. But after going into the second loop, I went totally blank. The only thing I remember is coming out of the corkscrew and leveling out at the end of the ride. Now keep in mind, you're on this ride for like 6 minutes. When we got off, I felt okay, but I was confused. I figured, man, maybe I must have fainted. But my son didn't seem to notice anything wrong. We had gotten out our seats and started walking around ahead to the next ride, and I noticed that I felt exceptionally well. I didn't have any pain in my arm at all. So I reached inside my shirt and touched my upper left arm, and there was no bandage. In fact, I didn't feel the stitches or the wound. Dude, I was so shocked that I almost fell to my knees. Now, we stayed in the park for another half an hour. When we made it home, I made a beeline straight into the bathroom and looked in the mirror. There was no lacerations, no marks, no cuts whatsoever. What the hell just happened? On Monday, I went to the doctor and showed him my arm. Now, you see, I had received the stitches in the hospital, but even my doctor had the admitting report from the emergency room physician. It was right there in black and white. Now, my doctor didn't say much, but I could tell he was wondering what the hell was going on and what happened. Confused, I just shook my head and told him what happened at the amusement park. And his only words to me were, "Stay well." I'm wondering, is it possible that I could have experienced some kind of off-world alien abduction event and didn't know it? I don't really believe in aliens, but I don't have an explanation either. I don't know if any of you have ever been abducted by aliens, but I have. And the story I'm about to share with you is true. I was 21 years old at the time, and in bed asleep, when suddenly I woke up feeling afraid. Opening my eyes, all the lights were off. That's when I realized that we had no power. Ever since I was a child, I've always had this fear of the dark and slept with a nightlight on. Looking out of my window, I saw that the whole town, as far as my eyes could see, was completely pitch black. And I started to panic. With no source of light, my heart started to race. I tried my best to go back to sleep, so I got back in bed and closed my eyes. Must have been 15 minutes later when I heard this buzzing and whirling sound. I've heard this many times before, and I knew what was about to happen next. My body became rigid, even my tongue. And as I tried to move, I wasn't able to. I tried calling for help, as my parents were in the bedroom nearby, but wasn't able to speak or even open my mouth. Suddenly, there were these hands grabbing my arms and legs and my chest, and I was thrusted upwards into the air towards the ceiling. I struggled, trying to free myself, but I couldn't. And in my mind, I kept saying, "No, I don't want to go. Leave me alone." But no words came out of my mouth. I remember going up and feeling the ceiling go through my body. I can remember how it felt, the texture of it. Then suddenly, I was released, and I fell back down, landing hard onto my bed. The velocity was so great that my mattress bounced up into the air. The next morning, I told my mother what happened, and she didn't believe me. And when we inspected my body, there were no marks on my arms and legs. However, when we looked at my sternum, there were clearly finger marks. And when my mother inspected my back, there were 2 large fingerprints. This has happened to me multiple times, and to this day, I still don't know what to do about it.
The truth is out there.
It is one of the world's greatest